before we get started with this video, I would like to thank 89 Fire God for giving me the idea for this Versus series. Thanks a lot, dude. Born on the planet Shalai, Shaak Ti was a female Togruta who was taken to the Jedi Temple at a young age. She was trained in the ways of the Force for many decades until she finally reached the rank of Jedi Master. After the death of Jedi Council member Yaddle, Shaak Ti was elected to serve on the Jedi Council as Yaddle's replacement. After the Battle of Geonosis, Shaak Ti became a general in the Clone Wars, serving at the head of some of the war's most famous conflicts. She was also an instructor for the clone troopers on the planet Kamino, and served as the confidant for many upcoming generals. Shaak Ti served in the Clone Wars up until the rise of the Empire. Mace Windu put her in charge of organizing the Jedi Temple's defenses should he and the Jedi fail to arrest the Chancellor. Unfortunately, this was in vain, as the Jedi Temple still fell under the might of the newly christened Darth Vader. Shaak Ti miraculously survived her encounter with Darth Vader and fled the temple after helping get a lot of young ones to safety. During the Great Jedi Purge, she took up residence on the planet Felucia, where she took a young Zabrak named Maris Brood under her tutelage. However, in 3 BBY, Darth Vader's secret apprentice, Galen Merrick, arrived on Felucia with the intention of killing the Jedi Master. There, Shaak Ti and Merrick engaged in a vicious lightsaber duel. Though she fought valiantly, Shaak Ti was ultimately killed by the Sith apprentice, falling into the ancient abyss and vanishing in a blinding flash of light side energy. Shaak Ti is well known among Jedi for not only her insightful wisdom, but also her caring nature, as well as being one of the Order's greatest warriors. The daughter of a treasure hunter and a female woman, Bastila Shan was given by her mother to the Jedi Temple in hopes that the Jedi could provide her with a better life. Once she finally grew into an accomplished Jedi, she was chosen by the Jedi Council to lead a strike team to capture the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Revan. As the strike team engaged Revan, Darth Malak launched an attack on the ship that damaged Revan as well as robbing him of his memories. Shan and the strike team took Revan back to the Jedi Council, where they erased his memory in hopes that he would be able to aid the Republic like he did before. After Revan was awakened, Bastila Shan started to form a close relationship with him, as both his mentor and confidant, eventually leading Revan into a conflict with Darth Malak. She provided a distraction for Malak that allowed Revan to escape and find the Starforge. Ultimately, though, Malak was able to turn her to the dark side by use of torture. Not long after, the redeemed Revan was able to have her see the light again. After Revan killed Malak, Bastila and Revan got married and had a family together. Afterwards, Revan went on a quest to find the Dark Lord of the Sith, Vityat, and they never saw each other again. Bastila Shan was often regarded as being one of the greatest warriors of her era, despite her young age. First, we will examine them physically. Shaak Ti is a female Togruta roughly 40 years of age. Togrutas are naturally more tougher and durable than humans, as well as being more flexible. However, a Togruta's distinct feature are two tentacles jutting from the sides of their head. The tentacles' main purpose is to provide more awareness and sensibility to the user, basically meaning Togrutas are able to sense when danger is coming a little bit faster than humans can. Bastila Shan is a human female roughly in her early 20s. As you would expect, being so young, she is in extremely good shape. She's basically your typical early 20s female. She's long and lanky, and she's thin and fit. However, I wouldn't honestly say she's quite hit her physical prime yet, as she is still very young, but she is getting there. I would have to give Shaak Ti the edge in terms of physically, mostly due to the fact that her species is more agile and has better awareness than humans. Now we will examine them as martial artists and lightsaber duelists. Shaak Ti was a master of both the Form 2 Makashi style and the Form 3 Ataru style. Form 2 is mainly geared towards lightsaber versus lightsaber dueling, and is a very good style to use in terms of stamina, though not quite like Ataru. Makashi style mostly has to do with a lot of long sweeps and a lot of very quick defenses. Interestingly enough, though, a lot of Makashi users generally use one-handed combat. This makes sense, though, due to Makashi's preferred style of finding quick openings, which a one-handed grip would allow very, very well. Form 3 Ataru is the most physically demanding of all lightsaber styles. It mostly involves a lot of jumps, kicks, and flips, basically going into your opponent and completely overpowering them with a lot of jumps, flips, and long sweeps. Very powerful, but not the best style to use in terms of stamina. Also, during the Battle of Coruscant, Shaak Ti was able to hold her own against a whole legion of Magna Guards, utilizing both her lightsaber and electro staff. Because of this, it is very likely that she has a good understanding of Jarkai dual blade fencing. However, this trait with Shaak Ti is rarely seen, and she usually prefers her single-bladed lightsaber over anything. Due to Bastila Shan's use of the double-bladed lightsaber, she is undoubtedly a practitioner in Jarkai dual blade fencing. However, this is not her only style, as she has on several occasions used just a single blade. Also, since Bastila uses a double-blade lightsaber, it is very likely that she specializes in Form 7, Juyo. Form 7 is very aggressive and powerful, using a lot of very fast and powerful strokes. Form 7 is designed for just pure offense, just going in and completely slaughtering your opponent, just wailing at their defenses. pretty much brute force in a nutshell. However, Form 7's biggest disadvantage is it can leave the user wide open, prone to attack. This one is incredibly difficult to call, as Shaak Ti's styles are mainly geared towards lightsaber dueling. Bastila's style is very aggressive and mostly geared towards overwhelming your opponent, so it really is difficult to call. I would have to give Shaak Ti the edge in terms of a lightsaber duelist, mostly due to the fact that her lightsaber styles are more user-friendly than Bastila Shan's brute force attacks. However, I will say the edge is not by a wide margin. And now we examine their force abilities. Although Shaak Ti is mostly a warrior, her force abilities are also very well known by the Jedi Order. She is capable of utilizing force push and force speed to varying degrees. She is very proficient in the Jedi mind trick, and it is more than likely that she possesses great skill with the beast trick ability, mostly due to the fact that when she was on Felucia, she was able to command the native as well as the native beasts of the planet to attack. She has also demonstrated a force blast ability very similar to Kinetite, basically a pure concentrated force of light side energy that is very destructive. However, she has not used this ability too often, but I do consider it a very key factor in her abilities. And although not a master of this technique, Shaak Ti has demonstrated some noticeable ability with battle meditation. Bastila Shan's force abilities, even despite her young age, are highly advanced. Her force pushes and shoves are able to throw people back very easily, and she is more than capable of chaining them into her lightsaber attacks. Also, due to her brief tutelage under Darth Malak, she does have a few dark side abilities at her disposal. She is reasonably proficient in force lightning and has a good skill with force stun. However, I can't imagine she had too much time to develop these specific abilities, as she wasn't Malak's apprentice for that long. However, Bastila Shan's greatest ability is her battle meditation. She was often hailed as one of the Order's best battle meditation experts, mastering the ability and taking it to its absolute fullest extent, where she was able to take control of an entire battle and even foresee the outcome, bolstering the confidence of her troops and downplaying the confidence of her enemy. However, although I do not doubt her ability with battle meditation, I wouldn't necessarily say she is the greatest master in all of history. However, I will not doubt that she is definitely one of the best battle meditation practitioners ever. In terms of force ability, I honestly don't think either Shaak Ti or Bastila have a definitive edge over one another. As for every skill Shaak Ti doesn't have that Bastila does have, and vice versa, their other abilities complement each other quite well. Honestly, I declare them equal in terms of force abilities. They match up against each other very well, and both their varying skill sets complement each other very well. Now we examine armament. Shaak Ti's lightsaber had a very standard design, but also a very effective one, with a distinct hand grip on the upper part of the blade, signifying her preference for one-handed use. It utilized a single blue Adagan crystal as the focusing lens. Shaak Ti's lightsaber is very maneuverable and well maintained. Interestingly enough, Bastila Shan utilized a double-bladed lightsaber, relatively uncommon for Jedi of her age. It follows a slightly archaic design due to the era she lived in, but is very well designed. Her weapon is of standard length for a double-bladed lightsaber, and features several hand grip locations signifying alternating use. Her weapon utilized a set of yellow Adagan crystals. Now, what are really the benefits of a double-bladed lightsaber? Two blades in general do provide more options, and the double-bladed design makes it a lot better for defense. However, for as many advantages as a double-bladed lightsaber does provide, it does provide just as many disadvantages. For starters, you have much less maneuverability. Due to the long nature of the hilt and the length of the two blades, you're basically limited to having both hands on the blade at all times, and you can't exactly flick your wrists while holding a long weapon. Now, some saber staff users like Exar Kun have compensated for this by having very short hilts, but Bastila Shan's is standard length. However, the biggest disadvantages that a saber staff does have is the long hilt is an excellent target. You slice that thing in half, and it's more than likely both blades will either short out or the user will even drop them. This is very common among saber staff wielders and is a weakness that is not easily compensated for. I would have to give Shaak Ti the edge in terms of armament, mostly due to the fact that her lightsaber is more user-friendly than Bastila Shan's saber staff. And now, the verdict. As it stands alone, both combatants are extremely proficient duelists and force users, and are both evenly matched in a lot of ways. But at the end, I have to make my choice, and in the end, I would have to go with Shaak Ti. The reasons for this aren't so much skill-based as they are fact-based. Shaak Ti is in much better shape than Bastila, and has shown to be able to take a lot more punishment than she can on various occasions. But I think the biggest factor comes down to experience. As Jarl Poof stated in his Bastila vs. Dooku battle, Bastila Shan is still very young, still very inexperienced, and has not reached her peak yet. However, Shaak Ti is significantly older and had a lot more time to develop both her force abilities and her dueling skills. And in the end, I think that makes all the difference. And although Bastila is a master tactician, so is Shaak Ti, as she is shown to be the mentor for some of the clone army's greatest generals. I honestly think if Bastila had matured into a full-fledged Jedi Master, she would have been a more even match for Shaak Ti. But as it stands, she is still very young, still very impulsive, and inexperienced. However, although it would be a very close battle, in the end, I declare Jedi Master Shaak Ti the victor. Well guys, that concludes this versus video. I hope you guys really enjoyed. Please leave suggestions for future versus videos in the comments. And as always guys, be civil about this. This is just my opinion, nobody else's. If you're a diehard Bastila Shan fan, don't get all snippy about it. It's just a video and it's just my opinion. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed and I'll see you guys later.